person is misdiagnosed or the diagnosis of ADHD is missed in childhood, even for teenagers, it leads to a number of problems that can be very devastating throughout life. Risk-taking activities and impulsivity are a big issue for a lot of people. That leads to drug addiction, gambling, financial mismanagement. Later in life, it causes relationship problems. It can also be an issue if a learning disability along with the ADHD is not diagnosed, because many times people just write off those children, those students, and say, oh, you can't learn. And really what they need is a better diagnosis so they can get help for their learning disability and for their overactive brain so that they can focus and actually get the work done. We find that many people get a diagnosis now, men and women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they're going back to college to get a degree that they thought they could never get because all of those risk factors and that missed diagnosis kept them from getting what they needed. Coexisting conditions with ADHD like depression, anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, when the diagnosis is delayed or missed completely, sometimes it's just a kid being a kid. Well, there's a difference. There are kids being kids, and there are those who can't stop doing what they're doing in order to be successful in many things in their lives. And it has nothing to do with intelligence, yet we browbeat many students around those issues, and they get bullied, and their self-esteem is low. The suicide rate and the incarceration rate for individuals with ADHD and learning disabilities is much higher than for the neurotypical non-ADHD individual. And that has affected our society. We know a lot here in the United States, but it's affecting people all over the world. And it's wonderful to know that we are continuing on the path of ADHD research in order to make life better for everyone and anyone who has a diagnosis or thinks maybe this is what's getting in their way. And by adding in the coaching piece, which is around structure and strategies to help support a person to move forward, to make choices in their lives, and to feel good about themselves, that will decrease the chances of some of that risk-taking behavior that I've mentioned. I got started in coaching after attending a Thanksgiving Day luncheon at the elementary school that my son attended in 4th grade. And there was a little boy who was sitting at the table with us, and his parents couldn't come to the luncheon. So he was sitting next to me, and he started talking to me about my son, and he said, oh, he's so nice, and I like playing with him, and he's a good kid, and he was just going on, and then he started looking around the room and talking and fidgeting, and I had only seen this boy a few times. And we were continuing to eat, except I looked down at his tray, and he hadn't eaten anything. So I turned to him and I said, aren't you hungry? And he said, I'm starving, Mrs. Triplett, but there's so much going on in here, I don't know what to do first, and I don't know what to pick. And we only have a few minutes left. I said, okay, let's try something. You tell me, what do you like that's on your plate? So we went around his plate. He definitely liked the roll, the big Thanksgiving puff snowflake roll. And he piled it high with cranberries and turkey and stuffing, even put a couple of green beans in there. And he wolfed that thing down. And after the luncheon, walking back home with my husband, I looked at him and I said, I know what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I said, no child should sit there and not be able to eat because the noise in the room and the excitement and all the activities keeps them from being able to figure out where to start. And he looked at me and he says, oh my gosh, you're not kidding. And I said, no. And from that day on, I started my coaching business and began to read everything I could about ADHD because I knew that there had to be a better way. People were coaching adults, but no one was looking at the kids. And the adults were saying to me, boy, I wish I had you when I was a teenager. It's like, okay, this is my thing. This is what I need to do and what I want to do. And that's what got me started. As time went on, I was working with teenagers, some college students, but what I was finding as I worked with some adults as well, they were saying, well, we never finished college. We got in, we did a year or so, but it was hard. Self-medicating with drugs and alcohol, dropping out, not having money. And so I began to look into what can we do at the college level, and connected with a group of researchers and coaches here in the States. And what we've done over time is using my coaching model. I go in and we do on-site trainings as well as distance learning to help faculty and staff beyond special education, beyond disability services, including, but beyond, advisors and deans who come to the training to learn how to shift their language to coaching language to empower and improve the retention rates of the students so they stay in school, they get choices, they understand how to move themselves forward because they're more self-confident and more self-determined, which leads to a more successful path in higher education. And it's such a wonderful feeling. And many of the college students that I've worked with, we'd start at the beginning of freshman year and work together off and on for 4 years. I have one student who went on to get a double master's, is now working on her PhD, and somehow in there decided, yeah, I met someone wonderful and she's getting married. So it's all these things in life that, according to her, her words were, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't had you in my life.